What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Talking to Dil Benfica podcast, episode number 142. How's everybody doing? With me tonight, Steve Santos. What's going on, brother?
My internet is good today.
Woohoo!
Woohoo! How's it going, everybody?
Good. And Cristiano Oliveira.
Doing just wonderful, guys. I mean, I couldn't be happier. Sitting here, Stadio de Luz. As you guys can see, they're checking us out on YouTube. Thank you very much for tuning in. Alfredo told me to reach out to some people and pull some strings, and here it is. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Or enjoy it, and I enjoyed it.
You forgot your catchphrase.
Hola.
There you go. On tonight's podcast, we will be looking back at Benfica's game against Guimarães this past weekend at Stadio de Luz. We'll also be looking at this upcoming Wednesday's Taça de Liga game against Tarouca. That's at Stadio de Luz also. And this weekend's game against Marítimo, which is the last game of the first round before it turns, obviously. So let's just get right into the Guimarães game, and I'll give you the lineup real quick. Júlio César, Almeida, César, Jardel, and Eliseu across the back. Samaris, Talisca are in the middle, Gaitan and John on the wings, and Jonas and Lima. So Maxi obviously serving is 5 yellow card suspension. Almeida jumped on the right. It was good to see Eliseu back on the left.
I
don't know. It's always good to see people come back from injuries, dude.
Yeah, he wasn't that bad, but he was definitely defensively a liability compared to what Almeida has gotten us accustomed to since he's been gone.
Right, and he also showed himself a little rusty, to be honest. But it is what it is. But it's always good to have depth, and it's good to see guys coming back and from injury. It'll take them a little bit. I just hope that his comeback doesn't come at the expense of Almeida sitting the bench.
I completely agree with that. I think over the past 2 months that Eliseu's been hurt, we've really seen Almeida doing fantastically well. In his own very quiet and subdued way, he didn't have any brilliant performances where he put in amazing crosses or amazing passes or anything like that, but he was just very steady, very good on the defensive side of the ball. Fantastic. For me, I'd play him over Eliseu any day of the week at left back, even if it is on his wrong foot.
The one thing that Eliseu does add to this team, guys, let's not forget, is that attacking. The guy could run up and down that wing like no one else we have on this roster. So let's not totally sit here and shit on this guy because he's, scored a couple important goals for us so far this season, and obviously he adds some to the squad. Is he as good as Almeida is defending? No, he's not. But going forward, it's not even close.
Yeah. Absolutely, it's not close, and you're right. He adds a little bit of something, and Almeida adds a little bit of something else. But as far as consistency goes, I'm going with Almeida as consistency goes.
And it helps protect Jardel as well, and the other center backs. I personally prefer to have the more attacking guy on the right being Maxi, and Almeida's not okay. He's not Eliseu, he's not good 1v1 or whatnot, but he's not incompetent when he's up there either. He can choose the right pass. He'll get a cross in on his left foot if he absolutely has to. He's not completely useless.
Dude, I think that's why Fernando Santos doesn't call him up to the national team because, yes, he's very secure defensively, but I think going forward he really offers you nothing. And when a team is trailing, I don't think he does at all. And in particular on the left side, his left foot is not the strongest. With the right, he might be able to do it once in a while, and we've seen him go up and down the wing. But I think on the left, he's really hindered by the lack of attacking capabilities that he has. Just my opinion.
Yeah, but let's talk about the game real quick. Guimarães obviously been doing very well of this season, and Steve, I got to be honest. I know that you and I spoke about this at length, and we expect a lot more from Guimarães. But then again, I thought that this was probably Benfica's best game of the season.
You and everybody else, it seems that way. I think JJ said it in his presser, and he said it again in that little interview he had with Benfica TV after the game. All over the internet, Twitter, all kinds of different blogs that I read, they all say the same thing. This was by far the most convincing display we've had all season. The fact that it came against a third place team who came to the luge with a lot of hype only adds to that. I think I don't like to really get too optimistic too quickly, but things are actually looking on the brighter side compared to what they've been up until this point. And it's a pretty interesting thing that JJ mentions. I can't remember if it's in his presser or in that interview, that his teams have always come into their own in January. And if you look back at last season, I think it's basically exactly this weekend. It's a year from the passing of Eusebio that we really saw the team really come around and really start to show some proper convincing displays. Not like it was in the first half of the season where it was kind of you eke the 1-0, you play not too well but you still win. Those results hopefully are a thing of the past.
Right. And what do you think? What do you think? It does say that the teams come into their own in January. What do you think there is? You think that there's a kind of like a learning curve that perhaps the new guys have to learn? Maybe he has to mold the team. You think it's a matter of fitness and that the players start getting into that rhythm of working out, training, games, training? Why do you think that in January he always feels that that's when the team starts hitting on the most cylinders? Why do you think that is?
I think it's a combination of all those things. I mean, let's just look at one player in as an example. Look at Samaris. Up until what, October, November, even the early part of December, I mean, Chris was bashing him, saying he had horrible feet, had no spot on the team.
I think we're all bashing him.
Look at him now. We all bash him to an extent. I think of the three of us, I think I was the one who was a little bit the most lenient towards him. But look at him now. Every game, he's getting that much better, that more comfortable in his position. Whether it's on the ball and playing the ball quicker, which he's doing a lot better now, or if it's positioning himself in the right spots to cover for Almeida, who's slightly out of position, or to split the center backs in the build-up phase. He's getting all these components to his game down, and that's all coming from more time with JJ, more coaching from JJ. Every day he's learning new things with him. I really think it has more than anything to do with his time. I think it's everything just starts to mesh in after you're imprinting all these things into your brain. Okay, I got to be here when the ball is here. If the right center back of the opposing team starts pressing up and coming out with the ball, this is where I got to be. There's all these different specific coordinates that JJ teaches these guys, and the more you see them every day, the more they get ingrained in your brain, and the more natural they become to you. And with that naturalness, you become confident in your abilities. Look at Samaris.
Yeah.
Steven, you mentioned I was bashing the guy, but I think I was right.
We were bashing the guy. He was
Steve,
playing horrible.
The guy was terrible at times. It looked like he had no idea what to do with the ball at his feet. So, yes, he's picked up this game of late, and credit goes out to him and Jorge Jesus, of course, because this guy, year after year, man, he's able to work miracles with players that we have absolutely no confidence in. And I think that's what JJ is good at, is able to adapt these guys and get them to all playing on the same level. And I don't think I was unfair. I don't think none of us were unfair when we said he was really horrible, and it was. I think it was a common consensus that he wasn't all that great, and we all thought that he wasn't the proper six.
I completely agree. He wasn't getting it at that point, and now after this display and after each display that he's growing and growing, you're starting to see that he's getting it. Yep. Is what I'm saying, and that all has to do with I think the time. It's and all JJ. The time on the training, yeah, but it's time with JJ. It's time on the training pitch. It's time learning all these procedures. That's what it comes down to. I think the fitness thing probably has something to do with it as well, because all different teams have different
expectation levels of fitness.
Not necessarily expectation levels, but I think they have different training schedules where they want to hit their peak form at a certain time in the season, where they're at their absolute most fit point. And maybe that's what JJ aspires to do with his technical staff, that he's looking for a very strong January, February period, because generally, if I remember correctly, this is normally our strongest parts of the season, like JJ said.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, we'll see, but we definitely see the team coming into their own, if you want to call it that. But you know, and we're coming into our own at the best time. But just to turn our attention to the game a little bit, and I think that I've already said that we expect a lot more from Guimarães. But I think that Benfica comes out of this game convincingly, with the win convincingly, and you know, Guimarães does have a good team. I just think, you know, I know that, Steve, you and I went back and forth, and you did say that you expected more out of Guimarães, as we've said here. But I think that a lot of credit has to go to Benfica also. I mean, we pressed high, we occupied the space as well, and then when we had the ball, we spread it around. We were pacey with the ball on our transitions, and we were on top of Guimarães, and you know, we were creating chances, and I know that Júlio César had a couple of things, but that's expected for a game that's going to be against a competitive team like Guimarães.
Absolutely. I mean, you mentioned that pressing thing, and I think for me that was one of the most important parts of the first half, where we absolutely dominated them. I mean, we were always in Vitória's build-up phase. We were always at the very least man-to-man in that first zone. So there was always a man on each center back. There was a man on the defensive midfielder. We were always at least man-to-man, and that made them cough up the ball so many times and not allow them to actually play football. I mean, that André that kept on getting all the hype, he was near non-existent in the first half. The poor guy didn't do much. I think he had one long-distance shot. Now I can't remember if that was in the first half or the second, but he didn't do much the whole game, and he's been their standout player for the whole year. And then on the offensive side of the ball, our movement off the ball was the best I've seen it all year. The interchanging of positions between Jonas and Lima, the way Jonas comes short and Lima spreads wide, it was just really, really fine-tuned. It worked really well. The way that we always look to find numerical superiority in areas where the ball was with this movement, it was really beautiful. It was, to date, the best football we've played all season, and it shows. We created chance after chance. How many posts did we hit? 4 posts?
Yeah, 3 or 4 at least.
Some really good, interplays as well, like some nice passages of play. Easily the best game we've played all season.
Yeah, absolutely, Stephen. The one thing that stands out is, like, you know, we've talked about it often on this podcast, which is Benfica's winning, but they're winning ugly. And even when they did play a little bit well and they picked up their game, we could turn around and still sit here and nitpick at certain things and say, you know what, they were playing, the Rocas of the world, the Moreirense of the world. And this game, it was total domination from beginning to end, and they played well, not just against anyone, but a team that's embarrassed some of our arch rivals earlier in the year. So this was a very important win, not just to for us to be able to keep the 6-point gap between Futebol Clube do Porto, but also I think this will give Benfica a lot of confidence. And I think Jorge Jesus will be able to point to this and say, guys, this is what we're capable of doing. We should play at this level a lot more often than what we do. So I think things are only going to get better from this point on.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jonas finally scoring an early goal.
Finally, he scores all the time.
But for the league, he's really, he has been scoring a lot more for the cups than for the league. But
forgive me if I'm wrong. I would have to look up this stat, but I think it's 10 goals in 14 matches.
11 now. That was his 11th this weekend.
Then in 15 matches, that's a pretty good haul, man. For a guy who
exactly.
If you look at him, I wouldn't say that you should define Jonas on his goal-scoring abilities. I mean, I think he's much more adept at making the others around him play better than he is at actually finishing. So for him to have that kind of goal tally, it's quite impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, I mean, Steve.
Hey, we all have our things. I was constantly bashing Talisca. Talisca had a pretty good match. This, for me, at the 8th position, was his most complete performance. He was quite good at all aspects of the game. But my whole argument with Talisca was more about how he was given an opportunity straight away when I thought that Bernard could have been given one. That's what it came down to.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, man. I don't know. It is what it is, but I'm glad that somebody's scoring goals, and we needed these important goals, so we end up the game with a final score of 3-0. Ola John, which had a whiff at first, and then he finally got it right.
Come on, that was all planned. Look at that first move.
Bro,
Beautiful.
that's the first thing I said to Alfredo. Remember? What a shank. That guy swung and missed.
Nah, man, that was all planned.
That was all planned. It was all planned.
That was the best finta you've ever seen in your life.
I think all credit should go to George Jesus. I bet you he practices that at practice all the time.
Yeah,
I completely agree with that.
and let me just interrupt real quick. If you guys want to be part of the show, we got the Twitter feed up. You're probably seeing that. But if you want to be part of the show and you want to say something, just tag Benfica Podcast, and you will show up on the screens as you're seeing. We're a little bit high tech today. I hope that everybody's enjoying this. A little bit more visual than audio than usual. But it is what it is. We're always trying to improve and try to bring you good entertainment, not only visual but also audio. But so if you want to contribute to the show, just tag Benfica Podcast, and you'll be showing up over there on the bottom of our screens. Anyway, so John Shank then blasted. I was happy that he scored. He's been improving. He also is trying to prove that he's got a spot on his team to JJ. Gaitan finishes off with 3-0. And again, Gaitan just seems to be in a league of his own. I mean, we've been saying this for a while. Very talented player. Very, very talented player.
From a player that for 2-3 years we used to complain of being hot and cold, right now it's just nothing but performance after performance of an absolute magician. I mean, we don't have anybody else on the side this year of his in his category. Last year we had the Markovic's, we had Matic, we had Enzo, but this year it seems like Gaitan is the artista, like we said the other day. He's the one of two, and he's just been absolutely fantastic. I mean, the way he dribbles the ball, he's got that very elegant style to him, that South American movement, the way he shields the ball, and then he hits a mean free kick as well with the first goal, the one where it makes that crazy dip and bounces off onto the crossbar. I mean, that's of another league. You can't really just find that anywhere else in the league. So the sad part is, having players like this in the Portuguese league, you always get the links to the bigger leagues and the bigger clubs.
And it's funny you mentioned that because today reports
it's Manchester United
that they were ready to hit the clause and be able to get this fantastic player that Benfica have had the privilege of having on team for a couple, 4 or 5 years now. And I hope he doesn't go because this guy is, Steve, I think we touched on this right at the beginning of the year when we had all these questions about who's going to play where and what was going to happen with Benfica, because obviously we sold majority of the team from last year. And we all said, I think we're all in agreement that this guy, for all of us, should have been playing the 10 position because he is by far the most creative player on the squad, at least going forward. And we also felt that Enzo was our most influential midfielder. So to me, man, this guy is a spectacular player. When he goes, Benfica goes. One of my good friends, João Brandt, huge Sportingista, the guy always said to me throughout the summer, he's like, man, you lost a shitload of players, but I'm going to tell you right now, the guy I hope and pray that you guys will sell tomorrow is Gaitan, because that's the guy that's been able to make your whole midfield go forward over the last couple of years. Even though we had a tremendous amount of other talented players, he felt that one guy, Gaitan, was the key guy in our Benfica midfield.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's the other thing. I mean, he came from Argentina, tagged as a 10, even though he played in an interior role. JJ has never really played him as a 10. Perhaps, a couple games that he played him where he had to formulate certain tactics or a certain setup to combat some team or some midfield, but really never really as a 10. Even during the Aymar years, even when Aymar was injured, even now, never really as a 10. Maybe he feels that he's better when he comes back from the wing into the middle, Steve. So, I don't know.
I think.
Did we lose Steve?
Yeah, I think we lost him again. His internet seems to be having difficulties once again. But yeah, I agree with you. I think this guy. Listen, as you know, I used to kick the ball around a little bit.
A little bit.
And obviously, I was a number 10 at Traquarista. I like to be in the middle of the park and control the game and be able to just walk back and stuff like that and really have to track back because of the position I play. But a lot of times when the game was difficult for me in the middle of the park because you'd have more defender. You know how it is. The game is a lot more clogged up in the middle. I would most of the time switch and say, yo, to my right wing or my left wing, switch up. And I play on the wing because now I'm one-on-one. It made things so much more, easier for me. You understand what I'm saying? I was able to take these players on and do what I had to do, and it really didn't matter. And so I think for him, it might be that case. He's very good in the middle, but he's much more comfortable on the wing because it's a lot easier for that guy to just run up and down the wing and take on defenders, on a daily basis and able to create plays and spaces for the rest of his teammates.
Yeah, I'm not really sure if we'll sell him or not. I think that after selling,
I think he's gone.
After selling Enzo, I think that we're good. You don't really need to sell anybody,
I don't know about now. I'm not saying he's gone now in January, but I think come the summer, he's the next guy in line. I think between him, Talisca, even Salvio to a certain extent, I think those are the guys. And obviously, I should mention Luizão. I think Luizão would absolutely be out in the summer. I think those are the guys that are lined up to make the switch to bigger and better clubs. I don't know about Luizão. He might just go for his big, huge payday. But I think those will be the guys on the way out. Just like I would not be surprised if Lima was to leave. But then again, these will be guys that are leaving because Benfica doesn't, no longer wants him on the team, not because other teams will be interested in him. So, the Taliscas of the world, the Gaitans, the Salvios, those guys will be going for bigger paydays, I believe.
Right. All right. So good win for Benfica, and now this coming Wednesday we play Aroca for Taça da Liga, and Steve JJ's already said that he's gonna rotate players as expected. I mean, we have 3 points. We're currently first place. Aroca is in a powerhouse. We're playing at Luz. Time to give somebody else some chances.
Absolutely. I think there's a core of guys that make part of the first squad that you're definitely going to see. When I say first squad, I mean make part of the A team that don't play enough. So you're going to see Benito, Cristante, probably Lisandro. It looks like Cesar has actually gotten the nod over Lisandro. Which, I don't know. The more I see Cesar, the more I'm intrigued by him. I think he's athletic. Athletically, he's very, very interesting. The guy looks very fast and he looks powerful. Whether he's got the criteria with his feet that Lisandro has is a topic we've hit a lot of times here. And I don't know if he's got that, but athletically, Cesar looks very good. So you have Benito, Lisandro, Cristante. Pizzi's going to play, Suleimani's going to play, and Derlei is going to play. And outside of those guys, it could be maybe a couple of regular first-team guys. Maybe you give Eliseu another run at it to get another. Well, actually, no, if Benito plays, Eliseu won't. So maybe not even Eliseu.
Yeah.
But maybe some guys like Almeida or maybe Salvio, who's coming back from injury, those kinds of guys. I don't think we're going to see many B-team guys. Personally.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so either. I think like you said, Cristante will get burned. I hope Moraes gets burned, Artur Moraes, because even at the cup games, the Portuguese cup games, Artur Júlio César was getting the start. So I'm hoping that Artur will play for the League Cup. What else?
All the guys that don't get regular playing on the A team should get burned this game. I mean, we got 5 of these Taças de Cerveja. Rotate some of these guys. Bring up the João Teixeiras that I know Steve absolutely loves. Bring up these guys. Give them an opportunity. You know what? Maybe throw Guedes out there now. Let the kid get more than 10 seconds of burn.
That's another kid.
Exactly. Let these guys play.
I get this wrong every season. It's the Taça da Liga that makes you play with homegrown players, correct?
I think both of them, but yeah, the Taça da Liga also.
Yeah, okay. So then we're going to have to see maybe an Almeida or maybe even Bruno Varela in net just to make that. You never know. Like just just to make down those numbers, because a lot of the guys that I mentioned aren't homegrown aside from Pizzi. When I mean
maybe we'll see João Teixeira.
I would be ecstatic to see that. I just finished watching the Porto Benfica B match, and I was just blown away by Teixeira. I mean,
yeah,
he's the most like for like replacement we would have for Enzo, even if he's obviously not at that level. He's got the same type of skill set.
Hey, Steve, you know who else is homegrown?
Who's homegrown?
Steven Vitória.
Does he count for homegrown? Yes, he would. He would, because it doesn't have to be within your club.
Yeah, you have to have been formed, as they say, in a Portuguese club, from a certain age.
Yeah,
and that counts as homegrown, really, even if it's not by this.
Even if he's not Portuguese, it would still qualify. So, yeah.
Any
I just wanted a reason to mention Steven Vitória.
You had to squeeze that in there.
Steven Vitória is on his way to Marítimo. So
I know Steve can't wait to watch this guy take his free kicks.
You've dropped that line twice now. Let's see if it actually happens.
Well,
that was your sources.
My inside sources tell me that that's where he's going.
I mean,
I've read sources that says he might go to the MLS as well.
I'll tell you this: as I was walking out here to this beautiful stadium and take our seats up here at the podium so we can do our podcast, I did see our good friend here, Alfredo, rubbing elbows and smoozing with some big people from Benfica. So maybe his sources did give him some good news. They weren't even Steve.
I don't know.
Even look at me, Steve. I told Rui Costa, turn his back. What nothing to do with me, bro.
I don't know if you could consider the guy that cuts the grass a big person, but that's okay.
Hey, that's the ear and the wall, bro. Those are the ones that matter the most.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So comes up this Wednesday. I forget what time the game is at, but I'm thinking around 8 o'clock local or 7:15 local. And then after Roca, we got Marítimo. We got Marítimo away. Very important game for Benfica this weekend at the Madeira, of course. What time?
18.
6 o'clock local time.
And the Roca game is at 20:45. Now, for those of you that know Army time, translate it for me because I'm terrible at that.
What is it?
Track 2, right?
What is it?
Army time. I mean 20:45.
20:45. It's 8:45.
Okay, so that's the way it is. Okay.
8:45.
I know Steve's out in Canada and they still do all that stuff.
-2, take away the 10 and subtract 3 and add 25 divided by 6.
Yeah, and it comes out to 8:45.
That's what you get.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, so very important game, Steve. Marítimo, especially closing out the first round. Not to mention that we got Paços Ferreira also away as the first game of the second round, and then not too far after that, we got Sporting.
Yep. 3 consecutive games on the road, then we come home to face Boa Vista, and then we got the Estádio José de Retreat.
Yeah, so it's important to build up and continue this momentum, especially when Sporting and Porto are going to be active in the European competitions. It's important that we keep tight and we keep this distance that we have right now, Steve.
Absolutely. We just got to keep plugging away. Since we don't have many competitions to worry about, we have to play every league match like it is a final. To use just another cliche, one of the ones used in the Portuguese league a lot is that going to the islands to Madeira to play either Nacional or Madeira is always a difficult match.
Yeah.
I think outside from last year, Benfica's generally not had too hard of a time going to Marítimo, but we'll let the cliche play and let's pretend that it's going to be a difficult match, and let's just hope we get the 3 points that we need, because really that's what it's going to come down to. You're playing on two fronts. One of the fronts, if JJ is already admitting that he's going to play guys that don't play that often, you're not taking that one very seriously. You have all your eggs in one basket, so you have to take every game, regardless if it's a difficult game in Madeira or an easy game at the Luz. You have to take it with the same value, the same determination to win the match, and go from there.
Does Marítimo have any players owned by Benfica that they could rest?
It's funny you mentioned that. I was wondering whether Bruno Gaspar would play or not against us, but he did. And he's obviously Benfica product, right?
Yeah.
And
Bruno Gaspar, who played right back for Guimarães, he's been featured. He's a starter for Guimarães. He's a hands down starter, so no controversy on that end.
Is he on loan?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's on loan.
He's on loan. He was a B team player that.
So
got
Benfica has a bunch of right backs that are on loan with there, Valencia, Guimarães.
Well, here's the thing. I always thought that Gaspar was a left back. I was surprised that he was on the right. Maybe I don't know.
Maybe your TV was backwards.
It could be.
Maybe you were watching it in the mirror. I think that's what it is.
I was watching it in the mirror. I was combing my hair at the same time. So anyway, tough game against Marítimo, and like I said, we got to keep plugging away. So
Marítimo, like Steve mentioned, and I mean, listen, we're a little bit older than Steve, and I can recall going back to our younger days where it was always very, very tough for Benfica to go out to Madeira because Nacional wasn't even around time. Nobody even cared about that. It was always about Marítimo. Marítimo was always a very tough out for Benfica.
Alex Bunbury, a former Canada glory.
Mustafa, some other clown named Mustafa I got to play with over here in the States. Played with him for a couple seasons. He went to Colombia. I forget. Was it Mustafa? I forget his name. He's your age.
Alibaba, I think.
He's your age. He went to Colombia. He went to Columbia High School. I mean, not Columbia High School.
I don't know.
You probably played with him. You just don't remember him by name. I think his name was Mustafa. So yeah, we've always heard, stories about how tough it is to go out there, but right now they're just not even close to the caliber team that they used to be back then.
Yeah, and actually, Sergio's got a good one, and he said, "Here's a twist to the loan controversy. Maybe we could lend Derlei over to Marítimo, and he could play against us."
He's on his way out, right, Steve? Wasn't it you that tweeted?
Oh yeah, he looks like somebody's looking at him. Derlei.
Yeah. I read something now. I can't even remember where it was that he might be going.
Yeah, that Leo's interested in him or something like that in France.
Yeah, Leo.
I don't see him playing much there either, so I don't know what he's up to.
Hey man, listen, it makes sense because obviously with the promotion of Font, and now you hear about this kid Jonathan Rodriguez supposedly got to Portugal today. He's ready to sign for Benfica, and join the team now in January. Who's another striker?
You got to Portugal today.
Supposedly
he was.
Supposed to. That's what I'm trying to say. Supposedly he was supposed to get to Portugal.
Last thing I heard, he wasn't even training with the main team at Peñarol. He was put aside.
Well, but the thing is that you're bringing in all these forwards, right? Someone has to be out in order to have all these forwards on your roster. So I think that a guy doesn't get a lot of playing time, and the more we've seen him play, the less I like them, to be honest. I know, Alfredo, you're a little bit, a fan of his. You like the way the guy hustled and stuff like that. But to me, it's not about, the hustle that a striker puts in. It's about the goals or the quality of play. So I think, I think it'd be good for him to go out there and maybe get some playing time because right now it's just not working at Benfica.
Yeah, apparently not. I mean, they thought that the guy was good, but he's had enough chances, but he hasn't done anything. And now Font gets brought up, so something's going on there. But you're right. I'm with you, Christian. I would like to see him go elsewhere and get some playing time if he can. I don't think the guy lacks talent or will. Unlike some other guys that we've had in our roster, but I mean, right now it's just not working out. Maybe he needs to go to a lower quality team to play. So, anyway, so that's pretty much it.
I'm waiting for Steve to jump in. He's waiting for
not on Derlei. We've spoken about him before. It's a player that has a lot of hunger, a lot of fight in him. I think his feet might be a little bit better than we give him credit for, but they're obviously not on the same level of a Jonas or of a Lima. So he's obviously on a lower level than those two. So if Rui Font comes in and he impresses, it might just push Derlei even further down the pecking order.
Yep.
Which is one reason why he might be looking for a move. So.
Yep, exactly. And Lima was one of the guys that we talked about at the beginning of the season that was struggling. The guy couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. All of a sudden, that game against Futebol Porto seems to have rejuvenated this guy. And he seems to have waken him up from this coma that he was on, and he's been relatively good after then. Might not be scoring at will the way we saw him a couple last year and the year before, but he's getting involved. He's setting up goals. And that's all you could ask is someone to play and obviously create chances at the very least.
He's definitely getting a new lease. I think some of the pressure has been lifted off of him. He's playing a bit better. And maybe it was all the shit talking we did here on this podcast about him that he finally said, I got to prove those guys wrong.
He probably subscribes to us on his iTunes account. You never know.
I think there was a time when Lima, even the simple things were going wrong for him. I mean, just the short layoff to an oncoming player was just overhit or underhit, and that has finally seemed to pass. And as long Lima doesn't need to score 30 goals a season, as long as he puts in the shift and presses the opposition and spreads them apart so that the Gaitans can find the holes, so that Jonas could score a goal here and there, I'm fine with that. It's just when he was playing so poorly that even a 4-meter pass looked like it was near impossible for a professional player, that's when you have an issue.
Hey, Steve, what's a meter, bro?
Told you already. A meter is just about the same as a yard.
Is that what it is?
So yes.
The 3 yard, the 3.
No, a meter is not a yard. Wait, a yard is 3 feet.
I don't even know what it is, but it's not a yard. I can tell you it's not a yard.
A meter is 100 centimeters. There's 30 centimeters in a foot. So you do the math.
30 centimeters.
I'm a little busy right now.
I think we're going to go back to that formula, how to figure out military time. I think that works for everything. But anyway, I think that's about it.
There's a couple things. Let's not forget there's the rumor flying around of this Mukhtar guy, but nothing's been confirmed yet. A player that I've only read about. I would be lying to you if I said I've watched him. I have not. I've read a few different tweets and a few different short little pieces from people who watch the German league, and they're saying that it's a bit of a steal to get him. I think we're getting him for free. We're just really offering him a really good contract at the end of the year.
I heard different story though, Steve, with that. I heard that his contract, as we all know, his contract expires at the end of the year.
Yes.
So Benfica kind of turned to earth and said, "Look, you can lose him for free. I give $500,000 now, and we get him now." So it depends on who you believe and what you read, but I've actually heard different stories. Go on.
One way or the other, it sounds like a bargain for a player that a lot of people admire. There's the alternative that me and Alfredo were going back and forth on this morning, where why haven't Bayern or Borussia or Schalke or any of the teams in Germany jumped on this player? Who knows? I mean, they might be fishing, and he doesn't feel that he has a chance to play much with them as well, so he's looking at us. There's many different ways you could look at this. The main thing that I have against this is what Rafael Guzu came out in the press today to say. He's played against this Mukhtar guy, and he says, yeah, he's good, but we have just as good in Portugal.
Yeah. And
he's blocking at this point. You bring a player like him, he's blocking a lot of players in his same age bracket that we have at Seychelles that we know are of quality. So I have mixed feelings about this. I'd prefer we didn't sign him, but if he is this fantastic steal at $500,000 or for free, who knows, man? You never. It's a lottery buy that I would prefer, just because he's coming from Europe. It's a slightly different adaptation coming from Europe than it is from Brazil or South America or anywhere else in South America.
Just to throw it out there, this Rafael Guzu, a guy who wants to talk about us Portuguese players being given a chance. This is a guy that was born in Brazil. He wasn't even born in Portugal. He represents the Portuguese national team, yada, 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 but he's not even Portuguese, so I don't want to hear him. Now, the other thing is, Steve, here's the thing. You're right. In a way, you're right. You're wondering about this player. Why haven't the bigger clubs in this country, come calling? Why are they letting this guy get away? Well, but listen, I look at it this way, man. Just because you're not of that high caliber to play at the Bayern Munich, the Barcelonas, the Real Madrid, doesn't mean that you're not a very good player at a Benfica per se. So I don't think that's a necessary knock. Maybe this guy wants to get out. Look at a guy that we all pretty much, all three of us up here, we all like, okay, and that's Brian Cristante. A guy that could have stayed in Italy, but he decided to come to Benfica. I understand different circumstances. Benfica paid $5.5 million, whatever it was for him. Different circumstances. But there's just some players that want to go abroad, I should say, and want to try different things, try different leagues. And Benfica is not one of these clubs that people never heard of. Let's not forget who we're talking about. We're talking about Benfica, man. All right, with all our history, with all our trophies, with all our, whatever, just our name flying around Europe. People want to come and try us out. So let's not knock this kid yet until we see him play. And, of course, I don't expect Guzzo or Guedes or Teixeira or anyone else to say any different because, honestly, this kid's going to come in and most likely take one of their spots. So, they're not going to be fans of that. But
Yeah.
I don't think that's the way. I don't think we should knock the kid for that.
I think to me, and obviously that Guzzo brings up good points, and I think that generation in which this guy Mukhtar, whatever his name is from, is a very good generation of Portuguese players. But obviously, it's something we've already talked about here time and time again. It's the agents, it's the commissions, it's the type of money that a foreign player attracts from other foreign clubs.
That's what it is.
So I mean, there's a bunch of things to consider. Obviously, a kid that's done all of his youth career in the German national teams throughout the several youth teams, if you want to call it, is obviously going to be a decent player. I mean, if he's in the caliber of those 23 that always gets called the best 23 players at every age group,
yeah,
he's obviously there's some talent there.
And not just that, when Benfica brings in players, guys, let's not forget, they look at this as a business, okay? They look at a guy they bring in like a Talisca, whomever it is. We're going to develop this kid and turn around and sell this guy for 20, 30 million, whatever it is. And just being honest, I know some people aren't going to like listening to this, but the truth is that you'll have a João Teixeira and you have a Mukhtar, for example. They're the exact same player. You put them both out on the market. Mukhtar will have a bigger market than he does just because he's German and his pass will be, valued higher. So it's just the fact of the matter. Benfica runs this as a business. Now, would I be surprised if Mukhtar comes to Benfica and becomes one of these players just like the other 100 that we've signed and eventually loaned out and never got to play a minute at Benfica? I wouldn't be surprised. But I actually think the kid's decent because, like you've mentioned, in order for him to play for the German national team, okay, regardless at what age group, and he didn't do it for 1 year. He's been doing it for a bunch of years, 14, 15, 16, 17, on up. I mean, the kid has to have some type of class.
Obviously. I just, and Cristiano brings up a great point about a lot of these kids wanted to go abroad. My thing with Steve, the conversation that I had with Steve today, I mean, if this kid is so great, obviously he doesn't want to stay at Hertha. He declined his contract. Why isn't the Bayern, why isn't the Dortmund just picking him up? But as Cristiano said, maybe the kid has ambitions to go elsewhere.
Or they don't see him fit. Listen, they can only sign so many guys as well. That's the one thing. Bayern Munich is not just going to sign a guy just to say, we're going to clog him up somewhere. Hey, maybe he's not Bayern Munich quality, but doesn't mean he's not Benfica quality.
Yeah, I agree. But before we go, I want to talk a little bit about the B team. I want to spend a little bit more time in the B team, but we just we don't have as much time. But the B team played Porto this past weekend, and actually Mr. Neil Fernandes has posted a good article on our website, BenficaPodcast.com, about the Clásico at the Seixal. Benfica ended up winning 3-2. A couple guys thrown out, as expected, usually in these games. But, Steve, this B team, I haven't followed a lot of this B team this year, but they do seem to be at a different level than they were last year. Especially with the rotation of players. I think last year I think Elder Cristóvão, if I'm not mistaken, he rotated something like 80 players into that team throughout the year, and I don't think that's the case this year. He seems to have a more steady stream of guys that he's tapping into.
Yeah, it seems like he's sticking more to a core of 15 or 16 guys, which is more ideal if you're looking at trying to get players that are going to play for the first team or trying to produce players that are good enough to play for the first team. Because if you have 80 guys, you're never going to be able to instill your visions into them. You're never going to be able to really get a good look at them. So the shorter squad's definitely a good thing. Just quickly on the B team, there's two objectives that I think the B team should have every year, and that's to produce players for the A squad, regardless of where they place in the A squad. If it's just making numbers, playing the odd minute, whatever. And the other one is beating the B teams of the other Três Grandes that are there. So we just did that within the past month. Rui Fonte got promoted to the first team. Will he play much? Who knows? But we definitely just beat Porto and Sporting. back to back. And hey, B team or not, that always feels good.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's good when these kids beat the Portos and the Sportings, because by the time they get to the senior level, these are kids that they've played against. So there's maybe a little bit of a mental edge when they play these kids, where you always think back and said, oh, we beat these guys a couple of years ago, and when we were juniors, and we were the age level under juniors. So I mean, it's always a good thing to have and to know who you're playing against and some of their weaknesses. Of course, these guys play against each other all throughout their formation. So, I mean, they're very familiar, and then they go to the national teams together. But, nevertheless, it's always good to see the B team beating our opponents, direct opponents in Porto and Sporting, and I think that the Seixal, what's going on at the Seixal is very important. What's going on, and a lot of people perhaps don't realize that. But Benfica, every time there's a call up to a national team, most of the time Benfica contributes most of the players, and that's a great thing. That's finally the Seixal coming into fruition.
Well, you look at the past 2 seasons in the UEFA Youth League, we've had 2 good showings. You watch this B team match between Benfica and Porto, and you'll see a handful of players that definitely look like they're at the very least first division quality. I mean, there's some out there that have technical ability, but they're missing that extra something. You get a look at Nelson Smith when you see a guy who's insanely fast, very good 1v1, but has a lot of mental lapses. So he's not there yet. But then you watch João Teixeira, Gonçalo Guedes, Fábio Cardoso, who scored back in both games, Helder Costa, all players that, if you ask me, they have spots at teams like Belenenses, teams like Passos Ferreira. They could be playing week in, week out in the first league, and that's a good thing. That means that the Seixal is producing players of that caliber. They're not all going to make it. I mean, the left back that plays for both the Portuguese under 19s and 21s and Benfica, Reboucho, looks very mediocre.
Reboucho, yeah.
Reboucho. He's probably not.
I think he has a better career as a rapper than as a left back. But
I was lining you up for that. I thought you would know about that. But he looks okay, but he probably will never play for Benfica. But then we have the guys. I mean, João Teixeira, man, watch him.
And there was an article on the Ball, I think, that Cologne from Germany was going to come around and sniff about João Teixeira. I just don't think that JJ is going to let him go anywhere.
Supposedly JJ batted them away and said, no, you can't have him, which I was very happy to read. Let's just see how much he actually uses him next year. I don't think this year we'll see much of him yet, but next year it's quite possible. It's quite possible.
We're all talking about next year, but let's. I don't mean to throw a wrench in this, but guys, is Jorge Jesus even guaranteed of coming back next year? That's I think a huge question.
I don't see why not.
Well, the guy signed
even if he does
deals year after year. I mean,
he said it himself that Benfica's not in a European final. I'm not going to get many job offers, which I don't know how much I do or don't believe him, but I have a very good feeling that he is going to stay for another 2 years. I'm finally become a believer. I now believe.
A believer.
I believe in Jesus. I believe in Jesus. I have a much higher regard of him now than I had 3 or 4 years ago. I think he's a very good coach. Whether or not he plays the style of football that I like, that's a whole other can of worms. But I think he's a very good coach. I don't think there's anybody better for Benfica at the moment out there. We bigged up Rui Vitória on numerous of occasions, and to be honest, I was disappointed in what he showed me just this weekend. I would sign the contract tomorrow with JJ if he had his name on the other side of it. I'm completely fine with him staying another 2 years.
Yeah, I'm with you too. Win or lose the championship, I'm with you.
I love the stability that he's brought to this club and his system. And you know what? Say what you want. It's been productive. You know what I'm saying? He's been successful. He's been able to take us to these finals. Yes, we lost them, and you could criticize the guy for having lost them because of a move here and move there. But still, the fact that we're getting there, man. This is a club that went 11 years without doing crap. Okay, just you know, finishing in 6th place and 5th place and shit like that. This guy brings in a lot of stability, and that's the one thing I like about him. Yes, he doesn't play the majority of the Portuguese kids or even the B team kids, but you know what? Our teams are very entertaining, and it's not one of these Jose Mourinho's. You get results and some ugly ass soccer. Diego Simeone, another guy. It's very attractive soccer. Okay, you could make the argument it's not in the EPL or not in La Liga, but that being said, you know he's coaching where he's coaching, and his teams are very successful, and they're playing at a very high level. And you know you get your money's worth when you go out and watch Benfica play. So for me, I mean, I give this dude a contract for as long as he wants. I don't want to see the guy go out because I don't remember in the last 20 years, having a manager at Benfica as successful as this guy has been for us. So, for me, he's got a contract as long as he wants.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think that he's brought a style and a philosophy to Benfica that a lot of the fans enjoy. It's that aggressive, and even though in his earlier years he was a lot of gung ho, and there was no. There was kind of a reckless abandon for defense. He's made a lot of adjustments, and the team is a lot more balanced now, with still having that same attacking and gung-ho philosophy. I mean, he says all the time that he's done a lot for Benfica, but he also says that Benfica has done a lot for him.
Absolutely.
And I think that his time at Benfica, Steve, has been a great learning and maturing experience for him as a coach.
Absolutely. I mean, when did he have the resources that he has now? I mean, he's at a club where there's not a thing that he could ask for that he wouldn't get. I mean, outside from I want Messi, bring him. That's not going to happen. But I mean, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of scouting capabilities and staff. He's never going to be told no. Where he came from, Belenenses, Braga, Felgueiras, a whole bunch of small clubs where he really cut his teeth. Now he's getting an opportunity to use all that experience at a big club. I personally think he's not going anywhere.
Yep.
There's no offer out there that he's going to get that will tickle him the right way. He said it before. If it was to leave for money, he would have left before. There's got to be a good project behind the money, and I don't see him getting a job in the top 5 or 6 in the EPL. I just don't see it happening. Not because I think he's incompetent. I just don't think he's got. I don't think he's got the profile for the same reason that he didn't get any votes in the stupid awards that happened today as well.
And Steve, I think one thing's for sure, Steve, he wouldn't get this server that he has, that he could watch any player at any time, anywhere in the world, at any other club. I think Benfica is the only club that was, able to provide this guy with this. And I think just for that alone, he'll be back. But listen, I think it's a fair question. I definitely have to ask it because, we did hear that the guy did have some big sharks coming calling for him, and he himself loves to announce that eu rejeitei o AC Milan. It was me. I didn't want AC Milan. So you never know, man. I mean, it might be, the Tottenhams of the world that come in with a huge blank check. I'm just throwing some name like that. Maybe it's not the Chelseas, the Man Uniteds, Arsenals, but you get the mother teams, secondary level with huge bank accounts that might entice a guy to make a jump in, and say what you want. The Premier League is very appealing to anyone.
Yeah, maybe when he's ready for a new challenge, that he reaches a point where he's probably has achieved everything in Portugal. Then at that time, maybe he'll think of something else.
I would love to see him get a job in England and Tim Sherwood get a job in England, and both of those guys go at it every weekend.
And Tim Sherwood could be his assistant. I think that would be great. But I can't. Can you imagine JJ in his press conference?
Newcastle.
In England?
Newcastle.
Yeah, Tot. I think he called Tottenham Tot once.
Oh, Tottenham.
Tot.
Anyway, I think that's about it. Big shout out to Mina, who's watching us from the UK. She's up late watching us live.
Yes, Mina.
Thank you very much. We have great fans. Also, before we go, I wanted to give our well wishes to Laura. I understand that she was in a car accident and got hurt, broke her leg. Hope she doesn't mind that I'm saying this out in public.
Laura.
But she's okay. She's been away from Twitter, but we're wishing her well and for a speedy recovery, and hopefully she can make a return to the pod one of these days. What else? BenficaPodcast.com, at Benfica Podcast, at Steve Santos 6, at 10CO10 is where you could find us on Twitter. Also, don't forget our friends over at planetbenfica.co.uk. They're remodeling their site, and I think that's about it. Also, Mr. Oliveira is part of another weekly show that he does with Mr. Krakauer on international football called the BSH Podcast. I advise everyone to check that out. Also, very, very entertaining. And I think that's about it. Anything you guys wanted to add?
Big shout out to Sergio R81, who I think watches us every week and always sends us some stuff. Thanks for interacting, Sergio.
Yeah, I mean, we could only shout out a couple people out of the hundreds of thousands that are watching us right now. It's hard to sit and name them all. So
look at the luge; it's full, man. Look at it behind you guys. It's
full of
empty chairs.
Yeah, we didn't have the rights to get inside the stadium on game day, so we have to get it when it's empty. That's what we were told. By Sapu, Sapu and all those guys, other guys.
I paid the guy that cuts the grass. I threw him a 50. He said, "Hey, just let us do this for about an hour or so. We're good. And after that, we'll pack up and go." I said, "All right."
I mean, it's daytime already in Portugal, as you can see.
Yeah.
Sun's coming up. If you're wondering what's happening right behind us, but it's spectacular. I'm happy to be here. This is a beautiful place. I see the banners and everything. It's
we don't want to lie to anybody, but this is what it really looks like.
Come on, man.
Oh, you went and did it.
Come on, man. Like, you messed it all up.
We just want to show everybody we're very tech.
Look, we went from hundreds of thousands to 3 viewers in a split in a matter of a second. Oh, we just gained one. Never mind.
Anyway, thank you so much for everybody for checking us out. And we appreciate everybody that interacted with us on Twitter. All this, we promise that these YouTube live broadcasts will become more interactive. So check us out. Don't forget to check out the channel on YouTube. All the videos are there. BenficaPodcast.com, at 10CO10, at Benfica Podcast, at Steve Santos. I think
6. Don't forget the 6. Every week it's the same thing. And then there comes the language too. It's like the same.
I said fudge.
Another night, another podcast. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. See you next week.
Peace out, everybody. See ya.